Everyone, I'm Fabrizio Docula, the Regional Education Manager at JoVE. Thank you for joining us in today's session of JoVE session of the JoVE webinar series, Engaging Students with Video Remotely and on Campus. Our session today will focus on enhancing hands-on medical skill practice with video. We will take a look at how a professor successfully transitional medical courses to a hybrid teaching model using digital education resources. But before we begin, let's get a few housekeeping items out of the way. So first of all, can everyone please use the raise hand icon on their toolbox to let me know you can hear me? Okay, done. Excellent. Thank you. If you would like to ask our speaker any questions, please submit them in the Q&A section of your toolbox. We will answer as many questions as we have time for during a Q&A portion at the end of our session. And lastly, you will get a recording of this webinar in your email the next 24 hours. At the conclusion of this session, there will be a brief 5-question survey. We would appreciate you if you provide your feedback so we can continue to improve our webinars. And now on to our presentation. It's my pleasure to introduce you and extend a warm welcome for today's speaker, Professor Dr. Giambattista Parigi, President of the Center for International Cooperation and Associate Professor of Pediatric Surgery at the University of Pavia in Italy. His work, as you will soon find out, highlights the versatility of video in medical education from learning to practice. Thanks for joining us today, Professor Parigi.
Thank you to you, Fabrizio, and good something to everybody. Good morning to the people in USA, good afternoon for UK and Europe, good evening or good night for the people from Australia. I know that you are coming from everywhere. Unfortunately for me, I'm not in the Everest as I was a few years ago, and from Nepal, if there is somebody, namaste. I'll try today to share with you a very simple experience that Fabrizio and myself, we designed together and we realized that together. I hope you'll be able to see my screen. It's okay, Fabrizio?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Okay, perfectly. I will very brief in my presentation, let's say 10 minutes, 15 minutes maximum. Thereafter, I'm of course free for discussion and the deepening of our experience. Well, just to frame the situation, I can tell you this is the organization of the Italian medical system. Our course in medicine is organized in 6 years, as all over Europe, by the way. The students must start at the 3rd year having practical training for 1/4 of the 15 credits of all the amount of university activities. And these credits, since a couple of years, are also essential for the state exam training that before it was done after graduation. Now it is done within graduation. This is the credit. These are the students actually enrolled at the University of Pavia. From the 3rd year onward, we have some 1,400 students. Let's do a little bit of advertising. Our medical faculty is among the oldest in Europe. We were founded 1459. The university itself, the first documents go back to 825. Therefore, we have some 12 centuries of history behind. And this project actually is a spin-off of COVID, unfortunately. If you remember, Italy was the very first country hit by the virus immediately after China. This is a picture coming from 24 to February 2020. And in Italy, the most affected area is Lombardy region, and our university is just exactly here in the middle of it. Therefore, we were put immediately in a generalized and strict lockdown. All our students were sent back home, and the hospital were banned to the frequency of the students. On the other way around, we had a strict law requirement needing practical traineeship to become graduated, to get the medical diploma. And therefore, we were in a sort of a cul-de-sac and an impasse. Students must go to the hospital to get their graduation. Students cannot go to the hospital because of COVID. Eventually, after 1 month in which no one was absolutely knowing what to do, there was a ministerial decree approving online platforms for practical training. And in this occasion, I had the opportunity of meeting Dr. Docula and JoVE, presenting me. I must confess, I was not much into the details of this kind of platforms, how to teach medical skill practice with videos. This avoids the risk of infection, allows an hands-on skill training, enables evaluation and grading, because you know, we are in Italy, we have 27 centuries of bureaucracy having to cope with. And therefore, our bureaucratic requirements are overwhelming. And therefore, I discussed all these things with Fabrizio, and I had an absolutely full technical support from them. And we received at the beginning 8 playlists. They were not exactly fitting into our needs. And therefore, we together, we browsed and shuffled through the collection of the videos. And at the end of the day, we were able to realize 18 different playlists for a total of 300 videos. Let's say an average of 16.6 videos per playlist, with a range 11 to 24. And all the videos were taken from the different collection in JoVE, JoVE Core, Lab Manual, Biology, etc., etc. You have here the full list of the collections we sucked to pick up the playlists, and these are the 18 playlists. We divided them, we tailored them according to the needs of the different level of students. For example, just as a recommendation, we recommended these playlists for the students at the 3rd year of course: anatomy, physical examination, life support, integral components of patient care, ethics and communication, and psychology. Starting from the 4th year of course, they were all years were able to do whatever they were wishing to, but this was our recommendation. At the 4th year, we added imaging, bacteriology, virology, and COVID, drugs, pharmacology, and so on, as well as genetics. And from the 5th year onwards, immunology, gastroenterology, clinical and experimental sciences in 2 different parts, neurology, and attend research as a final, let's say, evolution of the medical knowledge. Well, this was the project. We presented the project to the students, and actually the results were fascinating. In green, you have the response. In March, it was just only as a tentative. In April, we had the approval from the ministry to utilize these platforms. And you see, in May, this rocketed, 2020. But unfortunately, the COVID went on. We were still in lockdown in September. We had to restart everything again, starting from December. And look, here in 2020, we reached 70,000 videos examined. We are at 110,000. Therefore, the results was absolutely fascinating to see how many people was accessing to the platform. Now in June, of course, this is mid-June, and also now the students, they fulfilled all their needs, and therefore now they have to study for the examination. All together, among the 1,300 students needing this kind of training, 90% of them accessed the platform. And we created a new pathology. There is the JoVE addiction pathology. We have a girl that, according to the data, spent 1,033 hours on the platform. I don't know about his mental health, but she enjoyed actually all the things. Everything was organized, strictly complying with all the regulation. Privacy now is overwhelming. Therefore, all students, they had to fill this participation consent, allowing JoVE to send me their results and to interact with them. And all the students, everything, of course, was done on the university platform, and this went on very, very nicely. And also all the, let's say, legal requirements about credit attribution was perfectly fulfilled. For every student, this is the student here, I know how many minutes the student passed on the platform, how many credits I can award them for that, how many videos on the total of 300 they followed, how many credits they gained, how many are already registered, how many they needs to be registered, etc., etc. All the bureaucratical problem was fulfilled. Well, I must say that this project was actually impactful across the board, because if we look at the number of playlists the student accessed and studied, these are the top 5, you see that the videos about anatomy and physiology playlist were seen 15,000 times, and so on, physical examination, immunology, etc. 6 to 10 clinical trials, anatomy and physiology. And by the way, this is also helpful for us to try to understand which are the most important attentions and desiderata by the students. What is a student need, which are their wishes, which are their preferred platform, and so on. As far as the time spent on the platform, these are minutes, 600,000 minutes. That is 10,000 hours spent. Again, physical examination is by far the most utilized video, then imaging, immunology, and so on, and 6 to 10 life support, emergency. Also, this is interesting. If you remember, there is a little bit of a difference between the number of videos spent and the number of, of hours spent. This means that for some playlists, the students, they saw them many, many times, because to learn how to listen a heart, to understand and to memorize the typical sound of a pneumonia versus a TB, chest auscultation, etc., it needs many times. But as you know, appetite comes with eating. And again, Fabrizio suggested me to offer you, just to increase your gastric juice secretion. This is the picture of one dish typical of my own valley in the Bergamasque Alps. You know that Italy is the homeland of good cuisine, and every village, not every region, every village has its own typical dish. Okay, if now your appetite is raised, also the appetite of our students was raised. And there was an increase in demand from our students to do something, not only to watch the videos. Therefore, discussing with our students' organizations, we organized a system like that, groups of 4, 5, 6, maximum 10 students with a younger third and fourth year, with a sixth-year student as a tutor. These groups, all of them vaccinated in presence and all together, they watched relevant JoVE videos, for example, the video dealing with chest auscultation, and immediately after, putting in practice, visiting each other. Please don't worry about gender, we were very strict about that. They visited each other and they learned, they put in practice what they were studying on the videos. In this way, we took what is the core, the wealth of knowledge that is concentrated in these videos, putting it immediately into the practical the practical activities in the world. And now that little by little we are able to again host our students for practical activities in the world, we see that we must not start from the scratch, telling them how to start let's say listening to a heart murmur, etc., but they have already something on which to base their activities, their practical activities. Therefore, this is what we tried initially to do, and that today I'm very glad to share with you.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for sharing your valuable experience with us here today. To learn more about it, I would like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. So let's start with the first one. So it's a more general one, let's say. So how time and resource intensive was it to design this blended course?
Oh, quite a lot. Quite a lot, because, well, I must confess, I didn't see all the 12,000 videos of JoVE, but I see many, many of them to choose and pick up which were the most interesting, the most important, and so on. Luckily, we had at the very first outbreak of COVID, when we started, we put all together without designing in depth. But also this one was helpful because via this way, we learned how to utilize the platform. Altogether, we took something like 1 month of work, not full time, of course, because I'm a medical doctor and therefore I need also to do my job in the hospital. But 1 month, more or less, we realized
Okay.
it.
Fine. So another question, how well do these digital resources fit alongside your traditional course materials? Did your students also act to this change, let's say?
That's a very interesting question also, because goes in the direction of what we were discussing since long time, and the COVID forced us to hurry up. In many of our universities, we are still old-fashioned, like, well, not like I'm teaching in many universities in Africa. And in some of these universities, the lecture is etymological a lecture. The professor comes in front to the students and start reading the lecture like that, and in less than 5 minutes all the people is completely asleep, etc., etc. Some of our lectures, I'm not, of course, I overemphasized the problem, but some of our lectures are old-fashioned. We are not native digitals. Our students, they do. And therefore, I guess that we need to learn how to utilize these platform, these interactive ways we have to do, just in order to change, modify, update the way by which we are teaching medicine. Because of course, medicine must be taught at the bedside as much as possible, but not everything can be done at the bedside. Well, one side one extreme is the teaching at the bedside. The other one is teaching in the classroom. In the middle, blending the two things, is teaching via the support of this kind of platforms. Therefore, we need to learn, and there is still a lot of things to learn, how to put this kind of teaching into our daily use, daily teaching activities.
So if I understood correctly, probably you are gonna take these resources back when you are going back to the university campus.
For
Is that
sure,
correct?
for sure, for
Okay.
sure, for sure,
Okay.
because we need to change the way by which we are teaching.
Okay.
And
Sounds
this
good.
could be a very, very appealing way to modify it little by little, but will do.
So how satisfied are or were your students with this hybrid, let's say, approach?
From one side, they were so sad not to be able to go into the hospital, because we had a lot of people crying, complaining, etc. But I told them, guys, I'm with you, but the virus is not with us. Therefore, from this point of view, they were disappointed. From the other point of view, at least they were very glad to have something to do, because we didn't left them completely alone. I know of some other universities that unfortunately were obliged to leave them almost completely alone, because it was possible to do anything in presence, mostly in the second wave of the pandemic, because the first wave, as I show you, it was Lombardy region the most affected. The other part of Italy was not so much affected. And now, as I told you, we're coming from the students themselves, the idea of these blended courses. And this is extremely important, because if he's the student asking you something new, for us is a, well, is a good desafío en español, just to, I defy you to enter into this system.
Yeah, definitely. So from a technical point of view, so let's touch also this point. Was it easy for you to edit the playlist that we sent for the first time, or was like
No
something?
problems.
Was it hard?
No
Was
problems
easy?
at all.
Okay.
No problems at all. Also because one of the question I receive on the chat, the videos in the playlist were homemade or sources were. No, the source was the library in JoVE database. By the way, this is also a very good template in order we to prepare in future our own homemade playlist. By the way, a spin-off of the fact that the videos were offered in English, we have two courses. One course is taught in English, one is taught in Italian. Also, for the students of the Italian course, it's extremely important for them to enter into a platform with a very good English, just in order to improve their English knowledge. And therefore, this was another asset offered by the system. But building up, the problem of building up the playlist was to know what is the full wealth. I went through all the different libraries, and I started from the 8 playlists that were already in JoVE database, but these were not fully compliant with our needs. Taking these as a basis, picking up the different other videos, we were able to build up something, I hope, interesting. And of course, these playlists are not covered by copyright, are available for everyone.
Okay, so I have some questions that already coming coming up from the audience. Maybe we can touch later on. I have last question for you about fraud. How did you prevent students, if you have some example you want to share with us, how did you prevent student, let's say, assignment or examination fraud?
Well, I'm member of the SESMA, Council of European Specialist Medical Assessment in Brussels, and now having to do with examination throughout Europe, the problem of fraud is one of the most important. And I presented a report under the title of to cheat or not to cheat. That is not a question. If somebody can cheat, he will go for cheating for sure. I know that some of my students can open the computer, open a video, go away to work for a while, coming back and switching off, and I'm not able to deal with this kind of fraud. What we tried to avoid this kind of a problem was a sort of, let's say, moral suasion at the beginning of the. I had a meeting with all my students in video, of course, telling them, guys, collecting this kind of credits is not a bureaucratical obligation by the university, and myself as a general coordinator, I'm not the one picking up if you have not followed exactly all the rules, blah, 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 blah. All these things are meant to improve your medical knowledge, your medical preparation. And therefore, please remember that when you are thinking to commit a fraud, you are not cheating the poor Professor Parigi, you are cheating yourself, because it's you that do not learn properly. If imagine you bypass the lecture on earth murmurs, you don't understand anything about earth murmurs. Whenever you'll become a medical doctor and you listen to a heart with an infarction and you'll not be able to diagnose it, you'll be yourself and your patient into a great trouble. Therefore, please think properly about fraud. The victim of this fraud is not the university, is you. It seems, I hope, to work. I'm not sure.
Okay, so they received the message probably. Okay, so next, I would like to share the questions our audience has been sharing throughout the session. If you have any question, of course, at this moment, please go on and submit them in the Q&A section. So I'm going to read the first one. So how do you ascertain that the students is actually attending the video show for such long hours? And not just letting run unattended. Do you include interactive breaks, for example, question that attendees must answer to proceed during the video show?
This is a very, very appropriate question, and my answer is I can't, because the student can access to the system via his own personal laptop at home. They don't need, another question is, they don't need to come into the simulation center of the university or whatsoever. They can do it whenever they want during night time. And I don't know, I'm not able, well, I could be able because they go through our university information center, but really I have no time to check if Mr. So-and-so in this very moment is looking at the video, etc. It's true, it's possible to have someone cheating. We try to avoid this problem via the moral suasion system I just explained to you. I'm sure that someone will cheat and I'll have some fraud. By the way, I put a limit, a top level limit of the credits that can be awarded, 9 credits, and therefore once the student has reached his level of 9 credits, there is no reason of collecting 1,000 hours just for the sake of collecting more credits. I hope that this number of hours will be really spent, because to reach, we calculated with Fabrizio the length of every video, of every playlist, etc., 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 to look properly at all the 300 playlists and so on, to give the 9 credits. The students must spend on the platform something like 100 hours. That diluted in many months is not so huge a duty, and therefore I hope the students will.
Okay, I have another one. How did you encourage students to engage with others remotely? Did you find that the videos stimulated much discussion?
Actually, this question goes into the second part, the appetite one. In this situation, the students were going together, actually physically together in presence, not in the hospital, but in the simulation center. And they were present, they were listening together to the videos, discussing together in small groups, also in this way, coping with the obligations of the COVID. 4, 5, 6 students, third and fourth year, and tutors of the sixth year. Also because actually we limited the access to the hospitals only for students at the last 2 years, fifth year and sixth year. The students of the third and fourth year cannot yet access to the hospital, and therefore they can access to the simulation center, and there they interact. And as far as they told me, the interaction was rather effective. I hadn't time, unfortunately, to attend personally to these meetings, but I have my tutors referring to me, and their reports are nice, are quite, let's say, encouraging about the experience they are living.
Okay. Yeah, there is another quite technical, but I think you know this. Do the playlists have to be hosted on the JoVE platform, or can the videos be embedded into different learning management systems like Kiro, for example? I mean,
well, according to our, when we put into our, Kiro is the name of our university system, and to embed these platforms into the system, is it possible? I received, oh my gosh, I forgot the technical names of the things you sent me at the beginning.
it's
Is
a
the
common cartridges.
common card, exactly. We did through our university platform with the common card given by JoVE in the first step, when the videos were not so many. In the second part, having some 300 videos occupying an enormous amount of memory, etc., we preferred not to host all the video on the university platform, but they remain in the JoVE platform, and is the JoVE officials sending me the reports of activity taken from their own database. This is also the reason by which all our students, they have to sign and to accept that their activity is shared by JoVE with us. If the number of your playlists is not so huge, like 300 videos, it's rather easy with the common card to charge it on the university system. If there are many, we, as a personal choice I had with my technicians, is not to have it directly on the platform.
So yeah, if I can add something, it's just so Kiro, it's a Moodle-based platform. So basically, all JoVE videos can be embedded easily by one or at once in the main LMS, such as Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas, Brightspace, and so on. very easily. And we have these guys in JoVE that can help you to embed also and to select customized video for you. I have other questions. So other questions. So for example, there is how to conduct, if you have like maybe some suggestions, the anatomy dissection practice.
Oh, is Dr. Minxian Chang. Good night, because China and I today is night. We are not conducting any more anatomy dissection because since many years, when I was a medical student, past millennium, we had our corpses given to the university for anatomy dissections. Since let's say 20 years onwards, we have no corpses available for dissection because no one is giving any more his corpses to the university, and there are not enough people to do so. For this reason also, we shifted to virtual dissection with the anatomage system. We have this beautiful online anatomage system that allows using your finger as a dissector to perform virtually an anatomy dissection. We have just only few corpses that we utilize only for top-level specialistic work into the surgical experimental surgery laboratory for new techniques, surgical techniques, but these are only for the surgical trainees. We cannot give this kind of dissection, offer to this kind of dissection to medical students. We have too many medical students and too few, if no one, corpse available for that. But the virtual dissection is very, very much effective, safer.
Okay, so another one, how did you implement groups of students to do work? That is, how did you get them from just watching to actually doing something?
This is done, as I told you, the idea was arranged together with the students organization. And I told them, guys, you are people old, vaccinated, and adult. You must decide yourself how many of you wants to, again, improve your knowledge entering these groups, and how many of you will remain without any other activity. Therefore, entering these groups of improving knowledge, sharing the videos, etc., organization of groups, I left completely the organization to our students organization that are very effective, I must say. There are some 10 to 15 students into the faculty council taking care of all this arrangement, and they did a very good job. And this also, by the way, I'm reading another question. Have you made an adjustment on the assignments and exam? The exam goes towards what they should have learned into these groups. If they attended the groups and if they learned properly, they will be able to pass quickly the examination. If they didn't attend any group, if they didn't do any job, the exam is not passed and they have to come back another time.
Okay, so last two questions, maybe, let's see. So is there any data on the impact of the videos on performance in final assessments compared to other traditional delivery?
Another very beautiful and engaging question. The answer is no, yes. No, at this moment, we have no data because actually is a new experience for us. Yes, we are planning with Dr. Docula to study more in depth our experience and to check if we'll be able to find some difference before and after this COVID. I guess it will be a little bit difficult because there are many variables entering into the equation. Is a common experience of everyone that the COVID completely overwhelmed our daily routine, and therefore we'll need to see. But we like to deepen this kind of experience just in order to be able to understand as much as possible what is the real impact into the general picture.
Okay, so last question for you, Professor Parigi. Do students in teams send an evidence of their practice like a video? And how do you grade and give feedback if their performance is well done?
This is done because the groups are many. This is done via the tutors. I selected the tutors to follow. Those are 6th-year students, trustful, very properly trained. We trained a little bit these students before, and they send me a report on their performances of every student that has been given to their care. And therefore are the tutors giving me this feedback, and I put the feedback into the system. Oh, sorry.
Okay, Professor. So once more, I would like to thank you for sharing your experiences.
Sorry, I see still a last Prahad. How do you adjust accommodation of some students in exam? You mean, sorry, I don't understand exactly the question. Is accommodation, physical accommodation of the students in the examination room or something else?
Disability.
Ah, the disability. No, for disabled students, we do also examinations online. We do almost everything online with, of course, all the care needed to avoid cheating, double webcam, one webcam looking at the students and another webcam behind to have at the same time the view of the area in which the student gives the examination. If someone wants to cheat, I have that paper that I presented in London a few months ago, that it's possible. There is a guy that spent some $24,000 in buying gadgets to cheat an exam, and therefore.
Did he pass the exam?
To pass the exam, yes.
Yeah.
It is possible for any of us teachers to follow one or more lectures in practice. Oh gosh, I don't know if. Well, the problem is that to show the lectures in practice, I had to put a webcam into the simulation, but I'm afraid that now we started the examination period, and this was something done in the last couple of months, in March, April, May. Now I'm not sure if there are still. What I can share, if JoVE agrees, I have no problems at all in sharing the playlists according to what we decided, and the playlists are of course available.
Are available, yeah, sure. For everyone. Yeah, absolutely.
The paper I mentioned the paper that has yet to be written. I will be very glad to share the paper if we'll be able to do so. If we'll be able to do so. But what can be done without any problem is to share among all the attendees the list of the 18 playlists, if they want to utilize them in any way. From my point of view, there is no problem. I'll ask JoVE for a reduction in the next contract, of course, but are the classmen tutors paid? Yes, they are paid by credits. I allow them 1 credit more for their activity. I can't pay in cash. I just pay them in credits. They need to collect 16 credits for the 6th year, and I allow them 1 credit plus because of their someone, 2 of them, because there is some of these tutors that really they themselves enjoy the teaching, because there is nothing best to be a teacher to deepen the knowledge you have to transfer. Because at least my experience in, if I want to teach something, I need to learn much more to be effective in transmitting this knowledge.
Okay, I think, okay, no more question from the audience. Okay, so once more, thank you, Professor Parigi, for sharing your experiences and tips with us. A special thank you also to our audience as well for joining us today. And a reminder that you will receive the recording of this session in your email. This brings us to the end of our first webinar in the series, Engaging Students with Video Remotely and on Campus. We hope you discover some helpful tips to implement in your own classes, whether hybrid, remote, or in person.